AGT would like to welcome our next speaker, Taylor, better known as Paranormal Teej. Whether you're fascinated by the idea of haunted dolls or terrified at the thought, you'll definitely want to hear Teej's take. As a paranormal investigator and collector of haunted dolls, Teej approaches the subject with curiosity, respect, critical thinking. Through social media platforms such as YouTube and TikTok, be sure and give them that thumbs up and that bell, hit that thing. It's really not that hard, y'all. It just takes a poke of the button. It don't hurt either, I promise. There's no electric shock or nothing. So, and it really does help her out a lot. So go over to YouTube and TikTok, where she shares her passion for these items, as well as all the things related to paranormal research and investigation. You can also catch her on the podcast, Ghosts Spill the Tea. Oh, that sounds fun. For more haunted content, please welcome Paranormal Teej.
Thank you. I'm going to sit. Hello, everybody. So as you said, my name is Taylor. I'm a haunted doll collector. I have about 70 haunted dolls in my collection. Before we start, I want to give a baseline of what haunted dolls are. I find that it's kind of a niche in the paranormal community. A lot of people are very familiar with haunted locations, and then when it comes to haunted objects, people are a little confused. What, why, and how. So haunted dolls are basically objects that are used as vessels by spirits. Similarly to how a location is like a vessel where a spirit stays. They have a vessel, they're not bound, they're not trapped, they're not stuck. They can leave, come and go out of their vessel at will, most of them. Objects can become haunted for a variety of reasons, and that's kind of what I wanted to cover today. We're going to go over Elizabeth's story, who's right here, because it kind of touches on that a lot. But objects can become haunted for a couple of reasons. One is by choice. The spirit may just decide, I want to have a vessel. Little kids are very, very common, especially with stuffed animals. Maybe it was a stuffed animal they owned or they were really drawn to. Sometimes we see it a lot with teenagers and young adults. They're kind of looking for a sense of identity, so they might pick something out that looks like them. We have a lot of young girls who are really into like the outfit piece of it and they want to look nice. And so it kind of gives them a sense of self to continue on into their afterlife. So those are just a few of the reasons that a spirit may choose a vessel. Another way that a doll can become inhabited is through conjuring, which is very unfortunate, but that's basically when somebody pulls a spirit against their will into an object through some kind of ritual or magic. We have seen this a couple of times. We have a couple spirits. We have one girl, we have spirits who have been conjured on family members who had a difficult time in the grieving process, and so they chose to conjure the spirit of their loved one into a doll. 10 out of 10, don't recommend, because those are spirits who are bound to their vessel as a result, which is very unfortunate and very sad. Another way that they can become haunted is through necessity. So we see this with haunted locations where sometimes a location is about to be demolished, the spirit doesn't know what to do, and they want a way out of the location, so they may hop into an object because they don't know how to leave on their own. And so that's kind of Elizabeth's story. I'm really excited to go over it because I've actually never told Elizabeth's story before online. It's a pretty tough one to talk about, but I think it's really important because it shows how haunted dolls can actually be a way out for a spirit in need. So it's not always a negative thing for them. Not all haunted dolls are negative. I think it's a huge misconception. They are so loved in the media and in the horror genre, and as a result, everybody thinks they're all demonic, they're all evil. They're not. They can be positive, they can be neutral, they can be negative, and everything in between. And at our house, we focus on positive spirits. So actually, all of our haunted dolls are positive, which has been an amazing experience for us. We learned so much from them. And I actually love haunted doll collecting. I do locations as well, but I love haunted doll collecting because it's a spirit you get to continue to work with. It's not just a spirit you visit in a location, you get to know them for an hour or two, and then you leave and never see them again. So you can kind of see them grow, develop, change over time, and that has been a really rewarding experience for us at our house. So Elizabeth's story. So Elizabeth was originally haunting a location. She's this one. She was originally haunting a location. It was an apartment, and it was a pretty negative experience. There was a lot of basically the ghost version of a temper tantrum. banging on the walls, rattling the windows, stomping, throwing stuff, very kind of aggressive activity. She would open up the cabinets, clear all the plates out, and it was a really bad time. And so this landlord got really overwhelmed because people kept moving out, and rightfully so, especially when men were involved. It would trigger a lot of problems, and nobody ever knew why, who it was, why it was happening. So they brought in a paranormal investigation team because they said, we can't rent our apartment anymore because everybody moves out after like 2 months here. This is a horrible experience. So the landlord brought in a team, and they actually discovered not only Elizabeth's spirit, they did find her body there as well. And so they obviously removed her, and they worked with her, and they learned that she was the spirit of a teenage girl. And what had happened was there was an issue between, I'm trying to be careful with my words because there are children here. there was an issue with her and her boyfriend. There was a deal gone wrong, basically, and somebody was trying to shoot at the boyfriend, and she got hit instead. And he did not want to get in trouble for his activities, so instead of calling the police and alerting things, he hit her at the house. And so, rightfully so, she was very, very upset. And she wasn't put to rest. Her family never knew what happened to her, which was a huge piece in why she was so aggressive and why she was acting out the way that she was acting out. So they obviously handled that situation. They laid her to rest. She did get a grave. Her family was notified, so they got that closure. But Elizabeth was not going to leave the apartment. And so they kind of worked with her. They did a bunch of access method sessions, and she agreed, I will leave the property and take a vessel. So they brought a bunch of vessels, and she chose one. So they didn't conquer her. She chose to inhabit the vessel that she's in. And Elizabeth has stabilized so much and has found so much healing by not being in an apartment with people who didn't understand and didn't like the paranormal. She is very active. She wants to communicate. She wants to be seen. And so because we're able to work with her on a regular basis and she's able to get that acknowledgement and that understanding from the living, she is a lot better behaved. So we have had, in the house, she was having pretty much daily meltdowns. We have had a meltdown happen one time at our house, and she's been there for quite a while, which I'm very, very proud of her for. What meltdowns look like for Elizabeth, and it's always when her boyfriend gets brought up. What's tricky about that is she's often the one to bring it up. So we're kind of like, oh boy, she's bringing it up. She wants to talk about it, and then she talks about it. She gets herself upset, and that's exactly what happened. She comes out the spirit box, and she's like, so have you heard about my boyfriend? And we're like, yeah. Yeah, we heard about your boyfriend. And she did really well at the session. When I'm in an Estes method session, I'll get really hot, and I started to get overwhelmed, and she started to ramp up. So I was like, okay, we're gonna end it. We're gonna end the session. And I thought that everything was fine. My husband went to bed, and I start walking down the stairs, and I hear, we have a tri-level house, so we have a set of stairs that goes this way, and then another one that goes this way. Walking down the top, and on the bottom I hear stomping really loud going down the stairs, and I'm like, oh no. And then pounding, punching the walls. She did punch a car window over here, which was interesting. And then the whole house got really cold, really dark, and it got pretty spooky. We were pounding on the walls and stuff. But we try to, a lot of people would see that as this huge paranormal issue to solve. And what we try to do is recognize who the spirit is. We're this is a teenage girl. What do you do with a teenage girl who's having a meltdown, right? I was like, Elizabeth, I see you, I hear you, and I was just quiet, and I kind of ignored it, and she settled down completely on her own, which was huge progress for her, because in the past it would have just continued and continued and continued. And since then we have never had an issue again, and that was the first issue that we had her. So that is a good example, I think, of a spirit who was at a location, and that location was really kind of toxic for her because she was trying to be seen by these people that lived there, and nobody wanted their apartment to be haunted. And now she's able to be in an environment where she can be talked to, and she doesn't have to be afraid. She doesn't feel neglected or ignored. So that has been a huge piece of progress for Elizabeth. So that's an example of that. I also wanted to talk about my friend Jerry a little bit, who's this teddy bear right here. If you have seen my TikTok or my YouTube, Jared's everywhere. Jared owns my heart. He's like the sweetest kid on this planet. So I'm like, I always have to tell Jared stories. He's the spirit of a 6.5-year-old little boy. He's very, very, very positive, very sweet. He was another location spirit. There was an abandoned house in Georgia, and some paranormal investigators went in, not even knowing if the place was haunted. They go in to investigate this house, and it's trash. I mean, it's like, people have partied there, there's graffiti on the walls, it's pretty nasty. And like moldy, flooded all over the floor, and there's just this perfect condition teddy bear sitting on a chair in the house, and they didn't even know it was haunted. They were like, oh, this is so cute, we're gonna take it home. So they take it home, and all the closet doors start opening, and they're like, oh, we brought something home. Because Jared is extremely active. He was actually my second haunted doll, and still 70 haunted dolls later, he's still at the very top of the list of activity. I think he always will be. He just cannot, the closet doors, he loves the closet doors. It's a game in our house. We have to guess how many closet doors it's gonna open. It's a whole thing. They brought him home, and the doors started opening, and they were like, okay, he's haunted. So they actually kept him for a couple of years, and then they sold him off to a college student who had him, loved him. And then she got a boyfriend. And the boyfriend said, you were getting your creepy teddy bear out of this house. There's no way I'm moving into your house with your creepy teddy bear. And so he got sent into an investigation team. And at that point, she worked with him, investigated for a couple of years, and then we ended up with him. Jared's another one who has made a tremendous amount of progress, but I need to tell you some really cool stories about Jared because he impresses me to no end. First one, right when we got him, and we were second haunted doll. I had experience in the paranormal, but not haunted doll specifically, so he was my second haunted doll. My first one was pretty chill. So we didn't know what to expect activity-wise, and how active they can really get. And so we had some friends over, and we're like, okay, we're gonna hang out with haunted dolls and see what happens. My friends have no experience with paranormal either. Offerings are a huge thing in our house. We give candy, we give gifts to them. They love it. So we're upstairs in the haunted doll room, and Jared at that time was like on a top shelf, like way, way high up. And my friend had brought him green lollipops, because everything with Jared's has to be green. It's his thing. She brought him green lollipops. And so we finished doing the spirit box, we had worked with him, done equipment. We're like, okay, we're gonna go downstairs to the TV room, and we're just gonna watch TV. And we didn't bring him with us. And my friend Jessica said, hey, Jared, if you end up wanting to come downstairs, give us some type of indicator that you want to come down, and we'll come get you. So we're all sitting downstairs, and again, we have this tri-level house, and they're on the top floor, we're on the bottom floor, so like the third floor down. And one of Jared's green lollipops comes flying over the banister and down 2 floors, and lands like right in front of my friend Jessica's feet, and she's like, I guess that's our sign, we're supposed to go get him, right? Like, we're gonna go get him. So we bring him down. We're like, Jared, did you do that? He's like, yes. You said come down. And we're like, okay. So he somehow got this lollipop from an upstairs bedroom all the way downstairs to get our attention to come hang out. So Jared very much likes company. He loves people. He loves to hang out. He's the sweetest. He has some quirky activity. When Jared gets nervous, he doesn't always know how to handle it. So this is like one of my favorite haunted doll stories from our house. My husband, who's up there, Mitchell, has this great idea. He's going to give 2 of our haunted dolls Nerf guns as offerings. One of them's a teenage boy who's 17, named Dick. Not a good idea to give haunted dolls Nerf guns. Not sure why he thought this would be funny, but that's what he did. So he brings them in, and we have this device called the Spirit Chat. It's very similar to the Oculus, if you know what that is, where it's a box and words come up on the screen. And we had happened to be talking to Jared at the same time that Mitchell gave Dick and Diego these Nerf guns. So Jared has the Spirit Chat, he brings in the Nerf guns, and the whole shelf starts like shaking, like earthquake shaking. And I'm like, oh no. And the lights start flickering, and I'm like, what's going on? Jared comes on the Spirit Chat and starts saying, I'm unarmed, there's a weapon. Throw it in the garbage, I'm unarmed. We did not think about the fact that Nerf guns don't exist in the 50s. My husband, they thought that Mitchell had given them a real weapon, and Jared was very afraid of that. So he earthquaked that room. He was like, throw him in the garbage, throw him in the garbage. Like he was so upset about this. So we threw the Nerf guns out. But Jared continues to impress us to no end. What I do is I try to educate about the positive side of haunted doll collecting, because the media always talks about the negative. And Jared was our first spirit that we really saw like how positive they could truly be. We had no idea when we started what this would look like. So my friend Jessica, who I talked about before, is Jared's favorite person. Anytime he comes on the spirit chat, he goes, Jessica Angel, Jessica Angel. He just loves her. She always brings him candy and takes her to the movie theater and stuff. So Jessica was over and we were doing an Astrid method session with Jared. So I was in the spirit box in the headphones, and Jessica, Connor, and Mitchell were asking questions. And this was really early on. We had no idea that Jared was gifted. We just thought he was a cute little kid that we had the opportunity to work with. And he comes on and he said, Dad. And everybody's like, oh, you want to talk about your dad? He said, no, your dad. And we were all kind of confused. We're like, whose dad? And he was like, Jessica's. And we were confused by that because he didn't know anything about Jessica's dad. Well, Jessica's dad had passed away a couple years earlier. And he's like, I see him, he's here. And we were like, okay. And I did not know my friend's dad. He had passed several years before when she lived in a different country. I didn't know anything about him. And he gave his name. He was saying like the names of his favorite song. Like all of this validating evidence when we really knew like he had Jessica's dad, and like even her husband didn't even know some of this information. And we were just absolutely blown away. And so Jared was able to tell her things that her dad wanted her to know. And it warmed everybody's heart, and we were like, oh my gosh, like this, it was like the most beautiful experience for everybody. Because he was able to connect her to somebody that she had been wanting to hear from for so long. And so that was kind of our first experience with how incredible the positive side of haunted doll collecting can be. It's not all scary, it's not all Annabelle and the stories that you see on TV. You can really connect with them, build those friendships, get to know them and who they are and what's important to them. And so they really changed our life in that regard, and they've helped us in more ways than we could ever describe. So that's a little bit about Jared. He blows us away. The other one I want to tell you about is Astrid. Astrid. So Astrid is a trip. Astrid is about 9 years old, and she was like a little pageant girl. Has never heard the word no in her life when she was alive. So to this day, she's obsessed with money, credit cards, etc. Like she'll take your credit card kind of situation. My favorite used to be my least favorite thing Astrid did. It's not my favorite because I can appreciate the humor in it. She steals. So her stealing has been quite an experience for us. The first thing she ever stole, and we knew she was a thief before we got her. I signed up for it, but I didn't know how frequent it was going to be, I guess. Like I kind of underestimated the stealing. So first time, I have this necklace that I always wear, and it has like a big white stone in it. And that was one of the things, is that she will take your jewelry. She loves jewelry and shiny stuff. Because she wants to wear it. You'll find it like tucked under her dress, or she'll like disappear it somewhere in her house. So this necklace that I love, and it's always something, when she's gonna steal, she's always gonna steal something that you're gonna notice is gone. She's not gonna steal some nonchalant thing from your house you're not gonna notice. It's something you use every single day, you need, and then you go there and it's gone. So I go to put my necklace on, and it was in my jewelry dish, and the necklace was there. The like casing for the necklace was there, but the giant white stone was gone. I'm like, oh no. And this is like when I woke up that morning, it was gone. I'm like, what do I do with the stone? And with Astrid, Astrid, you can ask her where it is. She's not going to tell you where it is. She'll tell you she stole it. She's proud of it. She's like, oh yeah, I did that, you know. So I knew she took it. And she's like, where is that? I'm like, I have no idea. Please tell me. Oh, I'm not sure where that went. I'm like, okay. So for weeks with Astrid, what you have to do is you have to pretend like you're really suffering with the loss of this item. And you just have to complain about it, and then eventually it'll show back up. So I'm sitting there on a TikTok live, and I reach over, and in a slipper that I've not worn in a year, it was gone for 3 weeks, inside of a slipper that I haven't worn, I touch it, and I'm like, there's something inside the slipper. And I was like, I never would have checked there, because there's slippers I don't wear. And so she steals, and it's a really fun game for us, to be honest with you. But kind of my point in all of these stories is sometimes the paranormal, the activity is a lot more than it seems. You know, we get so afraid of the things that we experience. We let fear get in the way, and curiosity goes out the window, and we assume the worst with activity. And sometimes it's just like a little kid trying to get your attention, or trying to make you laugh, or trying to make themselves laugh, which is the case a lot of times in our house. We're the victim of many jokes in our house, but you know, just because you're experiencing activity doesn't mean that activity is bad. So it's so important to view it with an objective lens and really look at the who's doing it, the why they're doing it, and what do they want from you in that experience. And you know, with all of them, it's a little bit different. With Astrid, she wants us to notice that she did something and that she's there. And we're like, oh, hi, Astrid, you took my stuff. Where is it? And it's just a game for her. You know, with Jer, when his big stuff is usually, besides the cough tours, it's a game, but with his big stuff, it's usually like he needs to be comforted. You know, he needs help in that moment. He's very scared, and it comes out as kind of a blow up. And, you know, with Elizabeth, too, it's like she's so upset about this boyfriend situation, and she just needs somebody to talk to her. And so it's so important when we're encountering paranormal activity that, you know, we get so excited just to see something that sometimes we make a spectacle of it, and it becomes more of a circus performance than it does like a moment of connection. And it's really important for us when we're connecting with spirits to realize that, you know, sometimes we're the only positive person that they come across in their day. And don't be that investigator that, you know, is going in there and just trying to get a rise out of them however we can. And we have learned time and time again, so many people instigate in investigations to try to get a certain response or a certain reaction. We have found that we get so much more activity just by trying to build a relationship with them and get to know them and who they are and what they're about. It's such a huge piece of paranormal investigations, and it's something that I wish that the media conveyed more. You know, the media is all about, oh, this flashlight went off, let's all freak out. But it's so much more than that, and we have to remember that these spirits were often, not always, but often, they were once people too. And just because they're in the afterlife doesn't mean that they lose those qualities about themselves. We see this all the time. You know, people are like, oh, we're dealing with a trickster. We have to be careful. Like, sometimes a trickster is that 17-year-old boy who was a class clown when they were in high school, acting a fool, and they're still doing the same thing now. Just because we're in our afterlife doesn't mean we lose those traits and we become negative. It's just they're trying to connect with us in different ways, and it's so important that we try to acknowledge that and recognize that. And I think the aspect of the paranormal field that Haunted Dolls deals with is so unique because you get sustained interactions with the same spirit over a very, very long period of time. And what we've experienced is they do change, they do grow, they do improve, and they can learn things in that afterlife. And so we try to be a positive part of them for them because so many people are so afraid of them. And we have learned time and time again, a lot of times they're a lot more afraid of us than we are of them. And Jared was a really good example of that. When we got him, he acted out a lot with me specifically. There was a lot of controlling behavior. If he didn't like who I was talking to, he would block my text from sending to this one specific person. He would delete pictures of them from my phone. He would delete their messages. He would try to disappear them from my life. He didn't like them. And I was trying to document a pattern of like, why is he picking specific people and not others? And what I learned is it was anybody who questioned me collecting haunted dolls. Anybody that was like, oh, are you nervous about that? Oh, are you going to want to do this forever? Oh, what happens if this happens? Are you going to get rid of them? Anybody that made those kinds of comments, Jared would try to disappear them from my life. Which was great, except like some of those people was like, my mom. You know, I'm like, you can't like move my mom from my life kind of situation. So we had to work through it. And I was like trying to figure out, like, this is clearly an insecurity about me getting rid of him. So what are we going to do? And so I was like, Jared, I would really like to understand this behavior better and what we can do to make this stop. But also acknowledge our feelings of the whole thing. And something interesting, you know, you guys have heard about spirit dreams before, I'm sure, the paranormal in general, what happens with haunted dolls too. So after I asked him that night, I had a dream, and it was a dream of Jared, not as his person, but I know what he looks like. He's all walk around our house. We'll actually see him physically. He's so cute. But it was his teddy bear in the dream. And he was showing me his vessel in multiple different houses, and all of these people's negative reactions to him. Screaming because their kid's music toy went off. And they were screaming and they were really scared of that. Or, you know, putting them in the closet because they got scared that something happened. And he was showing me all of these different people's reaction to him of them being afraid. And I learned he's very sensitive to people being afraid of him. And so basically now, I reassured him that we're never going to get rid of you. We're not afraid of you. You're not going anywhere. And kind of all the chaos just stopped. So again, it's just another example of, you know, we have to understand the why behind the paranormal activity. And it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's just a kid who doesn't want to leave your house, which is the case for us. So haunted doll collecting has really changed our lives in more ways than I can count. And Jared has been a huge part of that because we had such a good experience and we just kept going. And we have expanded to more than we originally started working with young adults, teenagers, kids. And we have expanded into some non-human spirits as well recently. So I'm going to talk about one of them now before we wrap it up. Amika, who's at the end, she's in the purple with like the bat headband. Amika is actually a fire elemental. And so working with her has been different. Her activity is very different than the typical haunted doll. All the experiences I told you about prior were about human experiences. Amika will show us bats in the house. So you'll see like a bat flying around and then it disappears and it's Amika. We recently had a candle incident. So she loves candles. She's very specific about the type of candle. It must have a big wick. And she will complain to no one if the wick size is not right. It's very important. So I was filming her story for my YouTube channel, and she had a brand new candle that had never been used before. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put it on because she'll play with the flames. You'll see them move. You'll see them go all the way up and go back down. It's really cool. So I was like, oh, we're going to video this. It's going to be a great experience. Everything was going great for about 10 minutes. And I walked out of the room for 10 seconds and went for a alone with the candle. 10 out of 10, don't recommend. Should never have done that. It was my mistake. I should have known better. But because when we got her, she swore she would burn our house. And technically she didn't, but it was risky. So I come back after like 10 seconds. I went and grabbed something out of the other room, come back into the office, and this candle is like making this like crunching noise and like spinning everywhere. Like the flames are like going all over the place. And I look, and all of a lot of the black wax had poured over the side, gone across the table, which is a flat surface, and when candles drip wax, I think it goes straight down. This had poured, and it was all underneath her vessel, and so she's just sitting proudly in this like pile of black wax. And I'm like, Amika, no. She was so mad that I had to clean it up too, so I got a nasty headache because of it. And I had to get her wet, and she like expired. She's not in the water, but I had to get her wet. She's covered in black wax, and she's stuck to my desk. So I like peel her off the table, clean her up, and I pull her on the spirit box after. And I'm like, Amika, did you do that? And she's like, I did. I'm like, okay, why did you do that? It was funny. Okay, can we avoid doing this in the future? I'm like, really worried you're gonna burn my house down. We avoid this. No. I'm like, please, no. All right. Like, I guess, you bring a fire elemental in your house and you should expect fire, right? Should have known better. And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, it's tough. And I said, what's tough? And she said, paying taxes. And I'm like, paying taxes? You're equating this experience. I'm asking you to not burn my house down. And that is as hard for you as paying taxes, if only you knew, girlfriend, And then she's like, I hurt you at the end. And I'm like, but it's okay. So, we had kind of a wild ride with that, but non-human spirits do have different activity than human spirits. So we always say, before you do something like that in your house, make sure what you're okay with. We have fae spirits as well. Those are always very, very interesting to work with. They are sassy to no end, and they make you see stuff, and it's a whole good time. But we absolutely love working with a wide variety now. We have branched out over time and kind of gotten braver and braver and braver. But those non-human spirits will mess with you in ways that human spirits aren't capable of. One fae example, we have this gal, Athenias, and she does not like men. Because back in her day, the men basically captured this kind of fae to try to get them called to war. So now they have like this eternal thing out against men. And they basically mess with them, and they will try to get them to dance for them. And if they perform well, they let them go. If they don't perform well, it's bad. So we have one of these types of fae in our house. And our house is very, very cold. I'm very intolerant to heat, so we keep our house like freezing cold. Had friends over. My friend Connor is sitting there literally sweating through his shirt. Like, you can see it on him. Like, he's drenched. And he's running out of our house screaming. He's like, why am I'm burning up. Like, I'm roasting from the inside. I don't know why this is happening. He's screaming. He's running around. We're all laughing because it's cold in the house. We don't know what's happening. And then it like clicked. I was like, oh no. I was like, I think I know what's happening. So we go upstairs, and Athenias, of course, is like, yeah, it's me. You're supposed to dance. I'm trying to get you to dance, and you're not supposed to make you run around, so you look like you're dancing by making you sweat. So we have had a wild ride with these haunted dolls. It's a side of paranormal investigating that a lot of people shy away from because they're just scared of dolls in general. And the reason behind that is because some of them look so close to human, and psychologically our brains don't like when things are close to human but like slightly off. So fear of dolls is a very real thing, even non-haunted dolls. People just don't like dolls a lot of times. So a lot of people shy away from haunted doll collecting, but it's an area of the paranormal that I think we can learn so much for, because we can get a much longer study of a specific spirit and really learn more. And what we've learned as well is, location spirits, they may have never seen your gear before. Our spirits, they practice and they use the same equipment over and over and over again, and they improve. And so we get a lot more timely responses. They improve on the spirit box. We're able to have like full conversations that are very contextual, sentence-length responses that we don't always get at locations. So we've been able to learn a lot about them. And it has been wonderful. So I'm going to wrap it up there and take questions. So if anybody has questions, please let me know. And I'm just going to come down and talk to y'all instead of sitting up here and taking questions that way because it's weird.